Bonjour, ça va? So, as you might have guessed, that's all the French that I can speak, unfortunately. I'm a terrible European, I'm sorry. And you probably guessed that because I'm a fat guy, and since I've been here, I've not seen a single fat guy, so I don't know what you guys do with them. I don't know if I want to know what you guys do with them, but yeah, thanks for having me here. So my talk is an introduction to and a brief history of the Laravel framework. So who am I? That's a good question. I've forgotten now that there's so many people looking at me. My name is Dayle Rees. I will be 30 this year, which makes me sad. And I live in Cardiff with my girlfriend Emma, that you can see in the photo there. That was taken at the Colosseum in Rome. I like to travel, and it looks like it's a fake background because of the crappy iPhone filter that I used. So, trust me, it is real. I don't make things up. I am Welsh, actually. I'm not English. I probably sound English, but I'm not. So that means that we can get along just fine. Okay, so my accent is probably very difficult to understand. It's kind of difficult in the UK sometimes, so I'm going to speak as slowly as I can. Hopefully you guys can understand. Is anyone having any problems with it so far? No? Okay. Does anyone not speak English? Okay, we're still good. Right. I should have slide notes as well, but they've gone and hidden them, so I'm just gonna wing it. I am known as the Red Panda Guy, which is a bit weird. So I figure now maybe you guys could call me Le Panda Rouge, if that's right. That should work out, but you'll see why that is in a second or two now. Okay, and that's for some really impressive branding change. You ready? I didn't have the animation. There we go. Cool. So I am head of development for a company called Just Park. We were previously Park at My House. We're a startup, Series A or Seed A funded. That's funding by Index Ventures, which is one of the companies that funded Facebook. So very exciting times for us. We're part of the sharing economy, so that means that we're helping people make money from the assets that they already have. Helping people share. And you can see the website up there as well. So what we do is we let people rent out any spare parking spaces they have, any private property, and then other people can come and book them through our site. But we also deal with parking in general, so we're a great way to find really cheap and affordable parking. It should work in France. It is global. Most of our business comes from London in the UK or other parts of the UK as well, but it should work here, so if you want to check it out, definitely have a go. An interesting fact about Just Park is that one of your sponsors here, BlaBlaCar, we actually share an office with them in London, so we've got some French connections there. I'm not in the London office, by the way, so I don't work alongside. I am a Laravel Team member, and what that means is basically we stand in the sidelines and clap while the author does all the hard work, which is great. But it's brilliant because I get to work alongside a bunch of really high-profile PHP developers, which means that I learn a lot from them. So I've got the likes of Taylor Otwell that I'll introduce you to later, not physically. And Jeffrey Way, who you might have known from NetTuts previously, now Laracasts. People like Phil Sturgeon, yeah, great people. I maintain a number of, I barely maintain the Laravel 3 bundles anymore since not a lot of people are still using those. But I maintain a number of Laravel 4 bundles as well. I am an accidental author. That's the only way that I can put it. So a set of tutorials on my website that I'll show you later kind of transformed into a book accidentally. And the first book I released, you can see on the left there, it's Code Happy. And on the right, we've got Code Bright, which is my current book for Laravel. and I'm shortly going to be releasing the middle one, which is kind of like a general book for PHP, even for people who've never developed in any way before, so that should be an interesting one. My books have over 7,000 readers and are #1 on LeanPub's gross earnings chart. They're also, the two that you see on the edges there are also in the top of pretty much every chart that LeanPub lists on their books page, which is really exciting. Okay, so this is probably the biggest conference that I've spoken at, because up until now I've been speaking at Laravel Conferences, so as you can imagine it's a little bit scary knowing that you're probably all using loads of different frameworks out there, right? I spoke in Washington, DC. That was the first ever Laracon, which is amazing. I got to go and see the monuments and then finally hang out with all the people that I'd been working with for, you know, a year or so and never met. Earlier this year, I went to speak in New York, which is fantastic again. There's a photo of it you can see there in the top right, where I decided to design the Americans a new flag since it wasn't as good as the Welsh one. So you've got McDonald's, you've got Breaking Bad and guns. I figure that pretty much covers it. And I've attended both of the other Laracons, which are the European ones, and I feel kind of bad because I've never spoken at those. I tend to chill out at those and just get to know people. So I'm pretty sure most Europeans hate me now. This is a brilliant title, I am a color schemes engineer. Loads of people love applying engineer to things now, so I just thought I'd throw that in there. So one weekend, I was bored, not a lot on the TV, so I decided to start making color schemes for Sublime Text. And this project's a great example of something that you could be doing just for fun, and then it just explodes. Because I went a bit nuts, and I made like maybe 50 or so color schemes over that weekend. I put them up on package control for Sublime Text just to see what people were thinking. And as you can see in the chart here, how many is that? 59,000 installs to date and 5,500 stars on GitHub. So it was a throwaway weekend project that exploded. Now there's themes up there. There's themes for all of the major text editors and a bunch of other stuff. So if you'd like to check those out, that'd be great. And that's a peacock that you can see on the left. Okay, so as I said, I was nervous coming in here because the last time I was in France, it was a long time ago. I was really young. So I was kind of worried it would be like this. Like that's the only, you know, that's the only kind of reference I've got. But as it turns out, you're all amazing. You're laughing at my terrible jokes already. So I'm really pleased to be here. So merci. And thanks for the host for having me here as well. It must be really awkward to keep swapping languages mid-talk, but I'm very grateful. So let's get back on topic. What's this talk about? So it's a two-part talk. The first part is about open source. It's about the history and growth of Laravel. And the second part, I'm going to be showing you some of the code so you can get to know the framework a little bit better, okay? So let's begin by going back in time to 2011. Sadly, Keynote didn't have a wibbly-wobbly effect, so I had to go with this one, which is great because it buys me time and also I can drink. Or not. Too quick. Okay. In the US, I gave money out to people who could pronounce Welsh place names. I don't have any euros on me, but does anyone want to try and pronounce that place? Just for fun? Just shout it out if you want. You don't have to put a hand up or anything. No one? No one daring? What was that? Yeah, close-ish. It's this is actually my hometown. It's Aberystwyth. So I spent. I do speak Welsh, by the way, and that's a Welsh place name. Yeah, I spent like 27 years of my life there, so I'm quite a sad person. It's a very quiet seaside town. Not a lot going on there. And at the time, I worked at this place called National Library of Wales. We were using CodeIgniter for really small projects. I had no side projects. I was always playing with tech, as we all do. But I wasn't linked to anything whatsoever. So I became interested in open source, and I guess GitHub kind of, became interested in GitHub and wanted to try that out as well. So I started by contributing to CodeIgniter. It was the thing that I knew the best. So this started out with graphic contributions, because I do a bit of front-end stuff as well. I like to dabble in lots of things. I think it's a good way to be. And at the time, CodeIgniter had like a welcome screen. You know those first like controllers that you hit, and you've got a splash screen, and it's like welcome to the framework. And it was just like text with a red border around it. It looked pretty crap. So I made a nice pretty one, and it got like, when I posted it on GitHub, it was like one of my first pull requests, and it had about 100 plus ones and thumbs and this kind of stuff under it. It went crazy. I think they'd never been exposed to anything pretty before. And it was accepted by our good friend Phil Sturgeon, so thanks to Phil for that. And then it was later rejected by LS Lab and pulled out of it because they wanted to have full brand control, and they said that there was something on the way that really never came. But either way, I felt like I wanted to contribute, but I wasn't given access to do that. So that was kind of the end of that for me, I wasn't butthurt about not getting my pull requests in, because open source is open source, but I wanted to help. So I started to outgrow the framework as well. Extending the framework, like tweaking it and fiddling with it in CodeIgniter was a bit horrible. You had to copy these files elsewhere. It was based on location. It wasn't great in my opinion, so I felt like I was learning, and I was starting to leave that community. So I had two choices. I know there are other frameworks out there, but these are the two choices I considered at the time. And the obvious one would have been Fuel PHP, because it shared a lot of devs with CodeIgniter. It had a lot of similar ways, and it just made sense. So obviously I went with Laravel instead, because I'm stupid. So when I started with Laravel, it was Laravel 2 point something. That's the best way that I can put it. I can't remember the exact number. I think it was 2.7, something like that. And this is how the website looked back then. There was no one using this thing, so it didn't matter that it was. Well, I actually think it was kind of cool. It's kind of clean and simple. But the documentation was like a religious experience for me. Yeah, I tried to promise no fanboyism in this talk, but it's going to leak through. I read through the documentation for this framework like around 50 times, just getting to know it. And it was something that I hadn't seen before, because there are a lot of other languages that have like these really clean and clear interfaces. Ruby reads like a book. I know that's a dangerous thing to say at a PHP conference, but I went for it. But I hadn't seen anything like that in the PHP world, and it was exciting to me. It had next to no users. I think a few of Taylor's friends were using it, something like that. And Taylor, who I'll get to again later, was a mystery to me at this point. He wasn't really around. I didn't know the guy. So the best way to get started with something new is to throw yourself like directly into the community. So I did that. I became active in IRC, which had 3 people there at the time. So I don't know how active you can be with 3 people. Basically nagging people for help is what I was doing. Nowadays, there's like this 600, so just an indication of our growth there. That's like an average figure. I started writing tutorials because there was no third-party help for this framework whatsoever. And what I wanted to do was get it out there. I thought it was really cool, so I wanted to share it with people. I wanted people to pick up on it, start learning it, make it easier for them so that we could bring people in and grow this project. So I wrote these tutorials. You can see them on my really old site, and you know it's old because it's got pinstripe in the top, which is completely out of fashion. the tutorials, they got a lot of attention, and people kept saying, "Oh, why don't you make it a book instead?" Since I didn't make it a book instead, I made it a book as well. I think that knowledge should always be free. I wouldn't want to pull people away from the framework just because of the cost on top of a book or anything like that. Like this project was always about bringing people to the framework. So I released the book on the side, with the content always on my website, and people started buying it. I was just, yeah, amazed. Has anyone read my books out of interest? Yeah, I don't know how. Oh, awesome! Thank you very much. Yeah, I honestly don't know about how many people use it in France, really. So yeah, CodeIgniter users, they kind of understood my way of writing and started moving across. So I became involved with Laravel 3. I submitted fixes, small features. I helped with like I said, I can do front-end stuff. I helped with the website that Eric Barnes was building at the time. You see in the corner. Loads of visual work, like I finally got the splash screen into Laravel 3, which is like, yes, finally accepted and not rejected. And I built some popular bundles for Laravel 3 as well. So you can see Bob on the homepage there, which is like a generator package. And if you look down the bottom, that's Ambu, which is like a profiler, which I might show you at the end if I get enough time, but I probably won't because I'm running out rapidly. And I helped to build the community. I wanted to put this really cheesy slide in here because I think it's kind of important. Like, if you're going to play around with open source, one of the best things that you can get out of it is friendship. So in the middle there, you'll see a load of the old boys of Laravel. This was at Laracon EU in Amsterdam not too long ago. And then finally, I can introduce you to Taylor Otwell, which you'll see smiling around the sides. So he's the author of Laravel, and he writes probably like 96% of the code that goes into the framework. The guy is a machine, really. And through working with Laravel, I got to know him, which was great. So we took a trip to Switzerland before this, a nice romantic trip, and here are my awesome snaps from that. If you look down the bottom corner, it's kind of fun because you can't make it out on this slide, but there's a commit that says Taylor and Dayle made this commit from 111,333 feet, which is at the top of the Jungfrau Mountain in Switzerland. I realized that I had GPRS on my phone and we could not pass this up. So if anyone can beat that, send a pull request. Laravel 3 had its flaws. Testing was a problem. There were static methods in there. And extensibility, it was really hard to change how it goes. I'm going to speed up a bit, by the way, because I'm slowly killing time. So it's time for Laravel 4. Taylor started work on it, and originally it was built on Silex. Probably not a lot of people know that, so we had a firm link to Symphony right from the start. I was always there to help with questions and opinions on it. I was probably one of the first people to play with it and find issues with it. Whole new architecture, like a complete breaking update, powered by Composer, and thanks to Geordie, I think Composer is like pretty much the most exciting project in PHP right now. So I'm really glad that it's based on that. At the time, I was absolutely terrified when I saw it. I hadn't used it, but now I love it. So it's a component-based framework. It's made from loads of individually tested components, which you can reuse. You can use them outside of Laravel, much like Symphony does as well. Speaking of which, it uses a lot of open source and 12 Symphony components last I checked. So I'm probably going to butcher his name, but I just wanted to say thanks to Fabienne as well. Okay, the promise for this code section of the talk. I'm not going to preach. I'm not going to moan about other frameworks because I think all of them are fantastic. They're all solving a problem for someone, so like whatever you choose, if it's working for you, who cares? Just the cool features and an intro to IOC and DI, which I'll show you now. I'm going to skip over this. I'm just going to raise a couple of points. This is just how I feel Laravel is. This is what I think Laravel is. It's about enjoying code. It's about code being art, something visual that you love. It's about keeping things simple, a complete platform end to end so that people can get started easily and grow with the framework. And it's about embracing open source and giving back to it. Community is the center of Laravel. Okay. So when I first started looking at IOC containers, this is the kind of titles that I saw. And I was terrified because I am an idiot. And I didn't know anything about this back then. So what I wish is that someone would have just said this. A magic code box. It sounds so much better and I can understand it. Things go in, things come out, it's amazing. So I'm going to show you the Laravel IOC container, and hopefully you'll actually understand what's going on. Does anyone have no concept of inversion of control? Okay, so a few hands potted around. Okay, so this is how it works with Laravel. Think of it as a little box, and you can, sorry, I'm turning to look at that because I'm working through code. So you can store something in the box by key using app bind. And I've passed it a closure there, which returns a new something. Or I can give it an object directly, so I've done app instance here. Ignore the static methods for now. If I don't run out of time, I'll explain those later. But they're not worth worrying about, trust me. They're fake. Yeah, and then we can get something out of the container or the magic box. Magic. By keys. So we do app make something, and we get that object back out. So right now it looks like a data store, doesn't it? Right? But it's not. It's not really. I mean, it kind of is, but it's not really. We can replicate a singleton pattern with the container. So what we do is we use the singleton method instead. And the way this works is if we look on the right-hand side, every time we make it, so that first time that it's being made, so the something variable, that closure will get executed, but the result will be cached internally. So the second time you call it, that closure won't be fired again, it will just pass you that object. So it's kind of like a singleton pattern, except you haven't defined that in the class. You could probably clone these objects still. So it's not exactly the same, but it's a very quick way to get a similar kind of feature, which is great. And this is the most exciting thing about Laravel's IOC container for me, and I think it's one of the first in PHP to do this. Automatic class resolution means that you see the class that I've defined on the side, so we've got example something. If we try an app make example something, first the container will go, there's no binding for that, like there's no nickname. But then it'll go, but there is a class called example something, so why don't I just instantiate that and hand it back, so it will do that and you'll get your class out. And this gets more and more clever, because what you can do is you can have a tree of dependencies this way. So if we look on the left-hand side here, we've got example something again. But this time, example something takes another, which is just an empty class, into its constructor. So if we try and app make example something, it will create the class like it has done already, but it will use reflection to look at the constructor of this new class, of the class that is created, and find out that it needs an another. Well, it knows that there's a class called another. You can see it in the list of defined classes, so why not just try and make it? So it creates that. And this will happen all the way down the tree. If another had a constructor type hinting other objects, it would just go and make them. And that to me is pretty amazing. It was great when I first found it. If it's a complex class with like strange parameters, it's not going to work. If you have to pass in credentials or something like that, it will die at that point. But if it knows how to make something, then the container will do that for you. You can trick the magic box. This is great. So what I can do is, using that name of the class, I can bind that to the name of another class, and it will use that instead. It will instantiate that wherever it's used. So I've swapped this whole class out, and it's going to use this other one. So this is really useful for testing. We'll see something similar in a second. So let's do something cool with this. So we've got a social repository. And we've got a get messages method on that, and it takes a username, okay? So this is an interface. So for an interface, we're going to need implementations. Here's a few different ones, so hopefully I don't have to go through those. Just see that they all implement the same interface, and imagine that they have code in them. You need a lot of imagination for this talk. Okay, so what we can do in Laravel is we can bind that interface to one of those implementations. So we can say our social repository is in fact Twitter repository. And now, anywhere that our social repository is type hinted in the constructors of our classes, it will just give us the Twitter repository as well, which is really great. But of course, these follow an interface, so they're somewhat, there's an example of that. And I forgot something there, but I couldn't be bothered to edit it, so there you go. But because they're bound to an interface, what we can do is make them interchangeable. So we can swap them out. And if we just swap this one binding line, we've changed the social repository that we're using for our app. We could also bind a mock in there if we wanted to test it. So I'm very quickly running out of time, so I'm going to sprint through things. This is very important. So all of Laravel's components are inside the container. Laravel itself is a container. That's what I consider the framework. So when you call app make, you're getting app out of the container. When you call root get, you're getting the router out of the container. And the way that works is through facades, which are actually proxies that people like to point out on Twitter. So you see the validator part, that's a facade, and it knows through the class that represents that facade, it knows what the binding is for that component in the container. So it will forward any method calls on the facade class to that component, resolve it out of the container, and then use it. And of course, because these are bound enclosures, they'll only ever be resolved when you use them. So it's not like they're bootstrapped up front, they're not wasting a load of CPU usage, they're used when you want them. So while that method is static, we can still swap things out of the container. That means we can replace all of Laravel's own components. So here's an example. I rebind the validator to my own one, and boom, I used Laravel's validator, it's now mine. So it's fully extensible. Or, if you don't want to do that, why not use Mockery, if you use the Mockery library, directly off a facade. It's a great way of mocking any component in Laravel out in testing. And there's a swap method to do, like a quick way of doing what I did in the previous section. I'm going to ignore that. So we've got a routing system. Yep. So I'm not going to go over these in detail because I'm really running out of time. But as you can see, routes are defined. You can define them with closures, or you can define them with a class. And you see the class and action pair there. That is resolved out of the container, so you can do your type hinting. And in fact, in Laravel 5 that's coming soon, all of the actions will have that type hinted injection, not just the constructor. So there's some exciting stuff coming there. You have resource controllers that are quick mappings to create various API-style endpoints for a resource. Named routes, which you might be familiar with from Ruby, or Rails even. Route filters, so we can, given a condition, we can change the outcome of hitting one of our controllers. We can use a route group to wrap our routes, and we can attach multiple filters or any additional settings we want to it. We have a migration system that you can see on the side, and then a Rails-esque schema builder on the right-hand side. This is all you need for a model, an ActiveRecord model in Laravel. So a lot of code there. And here's a brief example of usage. Sorry I'm flicking through these, but I'm really, really running over. And relationships can be defined like this. I'll obviously put the slides up somewhere later. So for fun, can anyone tell me what's wrong with this? N+1 problem, yep. Every time that you cycle through the pandas and get the cubs, it's going to do a new query. So Laravel's ActiveRecord implementation has a nice way around that. what you can do instead is you can do with, and it will eager load that relationship. So it's nice and clear and simple. We have a queue implementation. We were one of the first to include this with the framework, and it is literally that easy. You just push jobs to a queue and define a handler for it. You can listen using the Artisan command line tool. We have an authentication system, and that's pretty standard actually, but yeah. Okay, and we have a caching system. You can see a number of drivers at the top. And one of the things that I really like about the caching system, so you've got your normal put and get stuff in there, but you've also got this cache remember, which I really like. So you kind of say, try and cache this, or if it's already there, just give it to me. So it's like it's combining the get and the set into one. An event system. We have model events, which are pretty cool, so you can attach them directly to eloquent models. I have a command line tool, and because I have less than 5 minutes left, I'm not going to go through all of these. So, yep. You can define your own Artisan commands. The command line tool is actually Symphony console wrapped. Why mess with something that's already pretty good? Can send mail, can validate, and more. So some of these features are also in the framework, and I'm going to wrap up with 2 more awesome things. So I said about end-to-end being an important part of Laravel. We have our own hosting system that Taylor's created. It's for PHP as well, as in you don't have to use it purely for the Laravel framework, but it's got a lot of great features for Laravel, so check that out, Laravel Forge. Homestead is a Vagrant box that will get you up and running with Laravel if you want to play with it really quickly. Has everything you need on there to explore its features. So I'm going to finish up with this. What are you waiting for? It turns out I haven't got 20 minutes left. I actually went over, so that's pretty good. But if you want to get started, compose a create project Laravel, have a tinker with it, because I think if you start using it, I think you'll actually enjoy using it. That's what will make you want to learn more and more about it. You could also join in with our community on Laravel on Freenode. If you want to read code bright and you don't have a copy, come and see me. Give me your email. Don't shout it out at me. If you could write it down, that would be awesome. And I will get you a free copy of that. Laracasts by Jeffrey Way is a wonderful screencasts resource for learning Laravel. Laravel IO have a podcast worth a listen if you want to really get involved with the people who are working on it. You should follow some of the Laravel guys on Twitter. And of course, I'm going to be around for a few minutes after, so come and say hi to me. Thanks for listening, guys. Thank you. Thanks.
Any question? Hey, thanks for the talk. I can't help but ask you what you feel about the first talk we had today in this very room that tear down all the frameworks, saying that basically they have no future. What do you feel about? How do you feel about that?
What I said earlier, I guess, it's you use what you need to complete the job that you're doing. For me, because Laravel is so component-based, I'd probably borrow a ton of them if I wasn't using Laravel. I'd use the container. I love the container. I'd pull in some other features. But why? I guess why do that when I can just get started with Laravel and everything's there if I need it. I don't think there's a lot of people saying that you can go frameworkless. Why do you need all of these features? But to me personally, I like having them there. If you're not using them, they're not being loaded. They're not getting in the way, really. Yeah, why make more work for yourself?
Yeah, I understand. Would you still consider Laravel as a full stack framework?
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Hi.
Hey.
Is there any place on the internet where there's best practice for developing with Laravel? Maybe your book, I don't know.
Best practice. There's a book by Taylor, actually. He's released his own one. It's called From Apprentice to Artisan, if I remember right. So Artisan is just a cute nickname we give our devs because they, love their art form. Yeah. But yeah, definitely have a look in there. He does a lot of great stuff. I mean, my own book is aimed at beginners, but his is a great one to continue on to. And if you're into testing, check out Jeffrey Way's Laravel Testing Decoded. That's all.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Is there any plan to remove the name of the classes when they are static calls somehow? I don't know. I'm wondering because I've been told for a long time that I shouldn't do that, and now I'm seeing this and I'm wondering if I did things wrong in the past or if this is like a choice of the contributors of relying on static calls.
Sorry, did you say to change the name of the classes?
Yeah.
So like the facades, the components, you mean?
Yeah, for instance, when you do app, comma, or colon, sorry, colon, and then make.
Yep.
How would you do, I mean, there are namespaces, but how would you do to change this if you would need it? It is anticipating, but
there is actually an app alias that lets you alias a class name to another implementation of it. So that could be what you're looking for, maybe.
Maybe we can discuss it afterwards.
If I've understood right, that could be your answer to that one.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's just since it's quiet on the questions, I loaded this up just to show you something cool I've been working on. So Symphony has its own profiler, and I've been working on one for Laravel 4. So we've got this, probably the first time it's been demoed live, but it's completely alpha. Right, it's not running. Can you swap it back quickly? Thanks. So, wrong desktop. I think it's the wrong one. Don't worry about it. It's okay. Yeah, no problem. Basically, I'm working on a new version of my profiler for Laravel 4 and 5, so you can check that out. It's called Ambu. Cool.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot for having me. Thank you.